You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Welcome back to the Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about Jiu-Jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a first-degree black belt who runs Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Athens, located in Athens, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, Randy McElwee. Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
Hey, Lamar, how's it going?
It's going well, sir. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, the pleasure is all mine. I appreciate you answering the call to come on the show.
Well, I never miss a chance to talk about jiu-jitsu.
All right, man. Well, let's get it rolling, man. If you want to formally introduce yourself again, by all means, and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Okay. Well, I'm Randy McElwee. My son and I co-own Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Athens in Athens, Georgia. We've been here for the last 19 years, and I got started back in October of 1997 with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I was in the military at the time, in Army Special Forces, stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I watched one of your episodes the other day, and I think one of the guys was saying that if somebody says they watched the very first UFC, that they were lying to you. Well, I watched the first one with one of my buddies from Special Forces, went over to his house. He was actually experienced in judo, had a black belt in judo. We trained karate together at the time, and he invited me over to his house to watch the very first one, as a pay-per-view. And, I was astonished with what Royce Gracie did in the first one. I would have lost a lot of money if I'd have been betting that night, because and so it forced me to kind of admit that, hey, I was not as schooled as I thought in self-defense or fighting. And from then on, we started looking at the concept of, hey, we've got to learn this Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stuff and bring it back to our guys that were operators on the Special Forces teams. And so we set out to do that. And in the beginning, there really wasn't any Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to be found. And we had to settle for a short time on learning, more traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu connected to judo. And then we finally found an opportunity to where Royce Gracie and Rorion Gracie had a circuit of seminars they were doing at different schools. And they did one in the fall, kind of close to us in Memphis, Tennessee, which was about a 4-hour, drive for us. And it was an all, like a 3 to 4 day weekend immersion seminar. And we kind of got it worked out to go there. And then they were having them, in the spring in Louisville, Kentucky, which was about the same distance for us. And so between the two, we would bounce back and forth and, get as much training as we could and then come back. We would use the old VHS tapes to kind of, refine and try to learn the techniques in between. And basically we were stumbling through the wilderness trying to find our way.
Oh, wow.
But worked out pretty good. From that, we started teaching the basics of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to the guys on our Special Forces teams. And we got, we finally got our command to approve bringing the, Rorion Gracie in for a week to do a full-on 40-hour training program for our guys and some instructor development. And it kind of, developed from there for me. And that was kind of the start.
Nice.
But
nice.
Yeah, we were really lucky to kind of get in so early and, get started with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had a lot of guys that I think, had that similar story of like, they seen jiu-jitsu for the first time on UFC, and it was like, yep, I need to figure out what that is, and I want to do it.
Yeah, there's two kinds of guys. They either completely deny that, hey, what I just saw works, or, they're the other side of the coin that say, hey, you know what, that's eye-opening. I need to figure it out.
Yeah. I think when I first saw like great like Royce do the UFC. This was like way after he competed, and I knew little to nothing about jiu-jitsu, but for some odd reason his name just kept coming up. Royce Gracie, Royce Gracie, Royce Gracie. And it was like that one little line, like, Royce Gracie, I practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's all I kept hearing. So, and I was like, okay, what is this jiu-jitsu? Like, what is it? And when I first saw it, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I'm thinking I see kimono or gi or whatever you want to call it. I'm thinking karate, but I'm like, no, these guys are like, tussling and slamming each other on the ground. And then I think after a while I kind of like, forgot about it. And then when I met a good friend of mine's now who was like, oh, I practice jiu-jitsu. So I was like, okay, I heard this mess, man. Like, I need to know more, more about it. And then once I like got my hands on it, I was like, oh, okay, this is what this is. All right. I need to figure this out.
And then it goes from there to just a stone cold addiction, right? To where you're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. I mean, you've been training for a long time, but do you remember when you got that bug? Like, yeah, I can see myself doing this for a very long time.
I think like right away, as soon as we start, I was already, pretty into martial arts, and like I said, initially karate. And so I was already just, enamored with the idea of, hey, you got to train, and it fit right in with what I was doing at the time. And from there, once I saw jiu-jitsu and saw, that little bit of, simple brilliance to how it would take a technique and just, make a slight little adjustment. And it was so simple. You're like, wow, why didn't I think of that? And it kind of had me like right away from there. And I think it probably made it worse in the beginning that we really just couldn't get enough of it because we couldn't get our hands on any of it. So it was scarce, And from there, that just made it, you can't have it, so you want it all the more.
Right. I mean, and going back to like when you started and kind of like when I started too, it wasn't a lot of jiu-jitsu that was so prominent, but like now you can throw a rock in any direction and hit a jiu-jitsu school, or you can, one click of a button, you got like 1,000,001 jiu-jitsu videos.
Absolutely.
So I look at people now, I was like, dude, you guys are so lucky.
We were saying that, like earlier today when we, midday class going on, and I was talking with one of my black belts, and we were looking at the white belts and, kind of seeing like what they do. And I'm like, man, look how much they know already. Because we always talk about how when we started, it was kind of like a deer trail, through the forest. It's just a little path. But now it's like a 6-lane highway because we figured out the system. We've got it, laid out with a curriculum. And, and I noticed the other day, I saw one of your other podcasts where one of the guys was talking about owning a school and about all the challenges he was having. And it reminds me to, I was at a business conference last week, and we were looking and talking with some folks that do martial arts business. And one of the things that I've noticed recently is that jiu-jitsu from the business side and the operational side of running a school, it's like 20 years behind the martial arts in a lot of ways. It still hasn't picked up a lot of the systems, a lot of the other pieces that, make it more professionalized in that part. And so it's so much harder to run a school when you don't have those in place. And a lot of it is, guys don't always have like a standardized curriculum to where they, have things set up. A lot of the guys, and I know a couple places that I tried after I initially got introduced to it with Hoist and Horian, they really didn't have a curriculum at all. They just kind of, wandered in and decided, oh, maybe I'll teach this today. And it was not, efficient or organized. And so it was hard to really start to develop and really build an understanding of it. And I still see a lot of that today, especially on the other side when it comes to the business systems that keep guys involved. And one of the things I do and really focus on is helping school owners work on that side of things with, putting their curriculums in place, understanding the marketing, understanding all the pieces that go into making it a business. Because the bottom line is, if you can't keep your business open, you can't share jiu-jitsu. And a lot of guys, guys run into problems with that.
Yeah. And that's a conversation that I haven't necessarily had with anybody, but a couple of the guys have came on the show, and we talked about, like, being a school owner, and it's tough. It's rough. It's not as easy as, like, oh yeah, man, I do this sport, I love jujitsu so much, I can teach it. Yeah, until you got to come up with a curriculum, or you have to come up with, modifying stuff enough for everybody to learn it. It takes a lot. It takes a whole lot.
Well, a lot of people fall in love with the activity of jujitsu, and the essence of that is survival of the fittest. Whoever is good. But when it's a school environment, you've got to have enough folks that make it, practical to keep the doors open. And so, but at the same time, you have to be careful not to sacrifice the quality of the training and, wind up with people that have watered down jujitsu. And a lot of that does occur now when folks understand how to really put together a curriculum. I'm lucky enough that my time in the military, one of the things that I kind of developed a niche for is building training programs, because, we had to develop our own training for the guys and the operators while I was in Special Forces. So it became necessary to learn how to build complete curriculums. And a lot of guys now, they have a technique list. They don't have a complete curriculum, because a complete curriculum is going to break it all the way down and, tell you, okay, I've got this many lessons. It goes in this kind of cycle. Each class is this amount of time in length. And then each segment is this amount of time, so that you can, go through that curriculum and stay on task with the time and cover the amount of, material you need to in the given time. And then you have to also be able to adjust it to fit the crowd that you're working with at the time. It's not one size fits all. Some guys try to do that. And if you do that, then you lose what makes jujitsu special, that individuality. We always talk about how there's two types of jujitsu practitioners. There's the artist, and then there's the engineer. And, the artists are these guys. A lot of the guys you see, they're really great at jujitsu. They do phenomenal stuff, and it's magical. And man, they'll put it on you in a heartbeat. They're tough guys out on the mat. But then when you talk to them and go, well, how did you do that? A lot of times they don't even know. They don't even know what they did. It just, to them, it's like breathing. It's natural. Yeah. But, we strive in the beginning to teach our folks to be engineers, so that they understand each segment and how to build these techniques and link them together so that they're able to reproduce it. And we're able to reproduce it for our students. And then once they get a foundation, for us, it's our white to blue program, which is we call essentials. Once they've built that essential foundation, now they're ready to start to become more of an artist and to develop their own style and, tactics and strategy, so that they actually have that kind of, ability to make it their own.
Yeah, I like that. And one thing I kind of developed, it was kind of like it was like one of the most like randomest things I thought about. We one day in class, I had the guys, we were just doing some light rolling, and I had everybody roll with everybody that showed up to class. So after everybody rolled, I asked them, okay, so when you rolled against, just say for example, when you rolled against Randy, what were some of your key points? What were some of his key points? What were some of your weaknesses you noticed? What were some of his weaknesses that you noticed? And it really like opened up a lot of eyes, because it's like, as an instructor, yeah, I can almost point out everything you do wrong in a sense. Like I can know when, like, oh, well, your weight's off, or you're moving too fast, so on and so forth. But if you're rolling with someone similar to you in your level, it kind of like you don't necessarily focus on it until it's like it's brought up, if that makes sense.
Right. And you're doing a great job of getting them to start to self-evaluate, because that's the way to really get better. You can get coached all day long, but if you don't, if you're not aware of what you do, then, you're not able to change it or enhance it. And one of the lessons I got in that area, and it works sometimes well for jiu-jitsu as well, is like a video taping your own rolls and then reviewing it. And we do occasionally a program we call HEAT, which is our highly effective accelerated training program. And when we first did it, one of the things we did was we taped every, videoed every roll, and then we did like a kind of like a film breakdown of each one for everybody, and kind of went through it and showed them where they could see what they're doing. I got that from whenever I went to military free fall school. Whenever you're doing parachuting, one of the things they do is they video you, and then because you're under so much adrenaline at the time, you can't tell, if your leg's straight, if your arm's off. But when you can go back later and look at it and see, okay, look, I'm not in proper position here. That's why I'm got a slight turn when I'm trying to fly. And instead of, being able to adjust it in the moment, because you really think you're doing it just right. Same with jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
I tell all my students that, rolling is kind of like going home, putting your keys down, and then somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night with a fire in the house, and you got to find your keys. All those techniques are your keys. You know where they are. You've gone over them in class. You put them away. But now when you start rolling, all of a sudden the house is on fire, and you got to figure out where they are really fast.
Yeah.
Under a lot of pressure. So totally different, setup. And that's kind of how we like to approach it.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's so important because it kind of brings you down to like more of a human level, if that makes sense, where like you're getting the feedback not just from your instructor, because it's not like you get a chance to roll with them every single time. So it's good to get used to your training partners and having those conversations with each other, because that's the only way you're going to get better.
Absolutely.
Instead of just waiting for like, oh, I'm gonna just wait for Master Randy to come over and roll with him and see how I'm doing. Like, no, roll with someone else and figure out what your weak points are. Like, if your bad position is side control, start in bottom side control.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. And unfortunately, a lot of schools don't have a culture to where they're a team, to where they're helping each other out. Guys come in and their whole goal is to submit as many people as possible and to just win. To them, that's winning. But the thing that they often forget or overlook is that if I don't train my partner, I'm only going to get to this level. And then my partner will always be here and I'm always winning. And that's great. I'm a big fish in a little pond. But if I really want to grow, I got to have my partner pushing me. So I've got to keep showing him more things so he can present the challenges. And one of the things we do is, once you get to blue belt in our program, and then you move into a higher level class of training for us. We separate it by abilities, but you move up into what we call positional development, so that you focus on learning the techniques based on the position. But we also require you to go back at each level for each stripe so many times to the beginner class, and we call it beginner review, so that now you're looking at the same techniques you saw on your way to blue belt with different eyes and different knowledge. And then also you're there to where you can break it down for the people that you're working with as partners, as a senior person. So you're a key part of the team. You're always mentoring somebody else to bring them up and to push you into doing better with your jiu-jitsu, so that now you're always going to be challenged. And, you may be the big fish in the little pond for just a little while, because the pond's going to get bigger. The other fish are going to come after you, and you're going to keep feeling that pressure to develop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to kind of like touch bases on that, it's like you said, it's so important to get that feedback. It's so important to have those fundamentals. In our system, we under Master Joe Moera, and no matter how many times I see this guy, it's I'm not gonna say not in a bad way where it's like it's always the same, but he always reiterate the fundamentals.
Absolutely.
All the time. There's never been a time where I've seen his videos or been to a seminar where he goes off on anything else. It's all about these rules and principles, and we drill that. Like that's so important, because if you don't have that good foundation when it comes to jiu-jitsu, all these other techniques that you want to learn and that we can teach you, it does not matter.
You're absolutely right.
Like we don't have.
When I was Green Beret, the saying for us was always be brilliant at the basics, because that's between professionals and hobbyists. Is, hobbyists, they kind of know what the basics are, but sometimes they're distracted by the flashy stuff. But the real professionals are really good at the basics. And one of my instructors said, hey, the basics work on everybody, and they're the only thing that work on highly trained people. So be good at the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. And no matter what people, like our students come up to us like, hey, I'm struggling with XYZ, and what can I do to get better at that? Follow your rules, follow your principles. I'm like, you guys should know this by now. This is what we tell you every single time. Like, oh, you can't get this submission. Where are your bases at? Where are your fundamentals at? Are you satisfying those first before you go for that submission? Position control submission. Like, that is how it can't go no other order.
Well, it's one of those things. That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, is it's simple, but it's not always easy. And so once you figure out that, hey, it's simple, but I can always dig a little deeper. I like to tell people that it's kind of like going to one of these ancient archaeological sites. Like if you went to Egypt, to the pyramids or something, if you got there first, you could start digging with a backhoe or a shovel or whatever. But, after a few years, everybody's been there. So you got to go in with like a little, wispy brush and try to find that little fleck of gold or little piece of pottery to, uncover something new and different. And that's kind of how jiu-jitsu is. At each stage, you're starting to look at it with those different eyes, and you've got to be more careful to uncover stuff. And you got to move like a mountain of dirt to find a fleck of gold.
Yeah.
But gold, that's what we're all after.
Oh, yeah. I tell everybody, I was like, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, like when you start, your vision is so wide. You want to see everything. You want to see all the techniques and all the flashy stuff and and whatnot. But once you start getting up there in your journey, and by the time you hit like brown, black, you're like this. You're like, I know what I want. I know what I need to focus on. I know what I like. I know what works for me. I know what does not work for me. And it always end up being the basics.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
Like it never fails. I tell people like, oh man, can you show this move? I can, but will I? No. I'm like, I don't personally understand enough to teach it, so I'm not gonna like sugarcoat like, yeah, I can show you all that stuff. Like, no, I stick to what I know. I stick to my basics. If there's something that I see that I can teach, I would, rep it and drill it and then, teach it. But other than that, no, we like the basics.
I agree. Basics are the place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you started doing a podcast?
I was bored. It was during, it was kind of like one of those things where it's like everyone was starting a podcast. It's just like, for some odd reason, it was just like, it just started like a wildfire. Everyone was doing a podcast. So it was like, I kind of want to do one. I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. But then I was like, dude, just make one about jiu-jitsu. Like everyone was doing, relationships and health and self-growth and all this other stuff. And I was like, I could talk about that stuff, but it's 90 million people talking about it already. So I was like, all right, well, let's talk about jiu-jitsu. And I was like, who will be my target audience? I was like, anybody who does jiu-jitsu. So that's basically how it started.
Nice.
I joined a couple jiu-jitsu groups and I just put it out there. I was like, anybody want to go on a jiu-jitsu podcast? I didn't rehearse nothing. I just put it out there and people were responding. I was like, okay, now we got to do this. So
excellent.
Yeah, close to 130 episodes and still going.
Now, do you do like one a week or is there like a kind of a schedule?
I usually do bulk recordings. Like today I recorded, I think I got like 5 episodes. You were my 4th one today.
Nice.
Yeah. Cause it's easier for me if I can record so many and I release episodes like every two episodes a week.
Oh,
so every every Wednesday and Friday I release an episode.
Outstanding.
So yeah, I record them, edit them, upload them, and I forget about them. Until I get down to like maybe like 3 or 4 episodes, and then I'll go back and get some more people, record some more, and keep it going.
Excellent. I like it.
Thank you. It's been fun, man. It's been exciting. A lot of wonderful people I've met through this podcast. Talk to people from all around the world. I just had an episode with this. I'm gonna call her a phenom because that's exactly what she is. But she's 15 and she competes like crazy. Like she did like 15 tournaments last year.
Oh,
I was like, what? But yeah, I talk to anybody, man. Anybody that does jiu-jitsu, from the 1-stripe white belt up to the multi-degree black belts, man. If you want to talk about jiu-jitsu, I will sit down and talk about jiu-jitsu.
That is the cool thing about jiu-jitsu, is it definitely transcends a lot of different, areas. You get people from all types of lifestyles and everything, and you get to bring them together. I don't know of anything else that brings people together the same way, to where you have a common interest. You'll have doctors, lawyers, mechanics, electricians, all these people from all these different walks of life that all come together, and now they have this particular bond and friendship over trying to choke each other. So
yeah. Like we all normal people, as as we can say, but yeah, all walks of life. I done had real estate agents, I done had like veterinarians,
right.
Contractors, everybody from all walks of life, but we all got this one thing in common. We all got jiu-jitsu in common.
Yeah, it's amazing how it does that.
Yeah. And it's amazing, like when you find out someone that does jiu-jitsu is like one of the happiest moments in life.
Right. I remember like one of the guys I met that's a friend of mine now, is I was in Destin, Florida on the beach, and at the time the weather was like, I mean it was terrible. It was a terrible day. Nobody else was out on the beach, and I was walking down the beach, and I had a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu t-shirt on, and I saw the guy from a long ways off kind of looking at me. And then as I got closer, I could tell he had a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu hat on. And then once we figured out we're both Jiu-Jitsu people, it was instant connection, instant friendship. And then later on, we turned out to be in the same Jiu-Jitsu association. But
nice.
That's how we first met, is that, we in the middle of nowhere, both of us were there. And then we just happened to link up because we both had, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gear on.
Yeah, it happens, man. I remember one day I was driving home from work, and this guy was in his this pickup truck, and he had the Gracie logo on the back of his window. So I was like, all right. I caught up to him at the light and like, hey, where you train at?
Right. Yeah.
So it was an instant connection, man. But I've never seen any other sport or anything of the sort do that.
Agreed. Yeah. A lot of times that it's even more, like polarizing if you're in the same, like I know for karate, you may both train karate, but that doesn't mean you're friends. You got your Cobra Kai and your Miyagi-Do, and they just don't kind of mesh.
Right. But with jiu-jitsu, it's like, hey, you train? Yeah. Oh man, we're family now.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's been an incredible journey with this podcast. Like I said, a lot of people that I've met had some wild stories that's like so unbelievable. But the main thing they always come back to, jiu-jitsu is the reason why I'm still here.
Yep. Jiu-jitsu did a lot for you, that's for sure. I know for me, it was, key while I was in the military. I got my blue belt from Hoist Gracie, and then from there, I moved and relocated. I got my choice of assignments after Afghanistan. And then I did my final assignment at the University of Georgia, teaching in the military science department. And then once again, I was back to where, okay, there's no jiu-jitsu around here. How am I going to get my jiu-jitsu fix? And so I wound up initially driving to Atlanta, from where we are. It's 2 hours each way. So I would drive up there, to train and drive back. And then eventually, I found a place up there that I started training that was, in line with the lineage with the family, with Hoyce and Horian. And for 9 years, I drove 2 hours each way, once or twice a week in order to drive up, do private lesson, do a basic class, then an upper level class, and get some rolling in. And I would have to make sure as soon as I finished rolling, I have to go get changed, jump in the car, and drive back so I could make it back in time to teach the classes at my academy that I was running here in Athens. So, but it's one of those things. Where else would you do that for the addiction?
Exactly, man. Exactly. Like no other sport, man. I've never been like thinking to myself, like, I got all these people that I've met all across the country, all across the world. And I'm like, how am I going to visit all these schools? That's the only thing I think about. Like, how am I going to visit all these schools? I wouldn't do this for nothing else. I wouldn't do this for nothing else.
I know we're always looking and trying to figure out, okay, it looks like we're going to be heading here. Where can we go and train while we're there?
Yep.
I haven't had a vacation in years because I don't take a vacation. I go someplace and train jiu-jitsu, and that's my vacation. So,
yeah, pretty much. Like every time we thought about going somewhere, the first place I'm like, okay, jiu-jitsu's in XYZ area. I need to know because I'm going to pack a gi and I'm going to pack my no gi and my gi stuff. So don't be surprised if I'm gone because I'm training somewhere.
Right.
Like it's just like it's such a major part. It becomes a major part of your life where it's like, yeah, I know I need a break, but I don't necessarily need a break from jiu-jitsu.
Right. It's not a real break if there's no jiu-jitsu, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I love the sport. I love the martial art. I love the mentality. I definitely can say I owe a lot to learning from learning. I owe a lot to jiu-jitsu from what I've learned from the time I started training, and up into everyday life now is like everything like revolves around jiu-jitsu. Everything.
I can relate.
Yeah. And it's weird where like I'm like, in my family, I train, my wife kind of trains, my daughter, she used to train when we had a kids class, but like no one else trains. So when I'm at like, family functions, I'm just sitting there like, can I talk about jiu-jitsu now? Like, do anybody want to hear about it?
That's basically how I got started in, running an academy is, my time kind of ended in the military and I didn't want to keep doing that. I'd spent, 23 years in the Army and like towards the end, I was married at the time and we were planning to kind of wind down and we waited to have my son and then he was born in 2000. And so I was kind of coming to the end of my career. Things were lined up. I was going to, take a position and teach combatives, which was essentially military jiu-jitsu, to the guys at the unit there. And then, one morning I was teaching my team and then the planes crashed into the towers in 9/11 and then everything changed. And we spun up from there, immediately locked down. People started shipping out, doing things. And for that next year, it was chaos for all the guys, especially in my unit. And after that, I didn't want to be away from my son more. Mm-hmm. When I got offered contracting jobs to do basically the same thing after retirement, I was like, man, that's going to take me away from my son. So I don't want to do it. It's not what I had in mind. So I finally decided that I would open the academy in the school and teach martial arts so that I could have him with me every day. And that's kind of how it all started. And then, I basically started a kids class so my son could train. And then it all just kind of started to fall into place from there. And then over the years, he's kind of grown up in jiu-jitsu. And now he's the chief instructor and general manager here at our academy and, teaches the majority of the classes and does all that. And we get to work together every day. So it worked out great for me,
Yeah. That's definitely a goal of mine, man. You know, my daughter, she loves it. We don't have a kids class right now, but she always talk about like, Daddy, when you guys gonna get a kids class? I want to come back to jiu-jitsu. I'm like,
Right?
at this point, I'm gonna just have you come to do the adults class because
How old is she?
she's 8.
She's 8. Okay.
Yeah, and it was one of those things when she started, man. It was such a proud moment when she first put on that gi. And she was like so nervous, and she was like scared and everything else, but after a while, man, she became my second in command.
Yeah, that happens.
So I was like, it went from her being so nervous to her leading warm-ups, her
Yeah.
teaching our basic our snakes and stuff like that. So
Great.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
It definitely it's interesting how they pick it up. And I know, like, when I had the opportunity we finally got to bring Hori and Gracie, to the base to train us. I was really lucky because I'd helped set it up that I got to be his sponsor. And in the evenings when we weren't training, I took him to some of our training events to go shooting and do some other things, and out to dinner. And so at the time I got a chance to talk to him, one-on-one about some things. And one of the things I asked him is like, well, I know you guys start jujitsu basically before you can walk. How do you teach a child to do that? And so he kind of gave me some insight on that. And it's like, oh, Randy, you just got to make it fun. It's always a game. And so, building on that and some of the things that he told me specifically, I did that right away with my son. And, it's always been really easy to get him to pick it up and to have a love for it.
Yeah. And I adopted what my instructor did when he taught kids class was, you keep it, you said, keep it simple, keep it fun.
Yeah.
We'll do one technique for the whole class, or we'll rep some simple stuff that they can grasp instead of like 15 techniques and like, all right, go work that stuff. Like, no, it's fun, it's engaging. You can make up anything to make something sound cool. Because before we left to open up our own school, we were teaching. I had a couple kids in there, and we were going over scissor sweep.
Right.
And I'm showing them the scissor sweep, and the way I do kids class is I'll show the technique, I'll go step by step, and then I'll have them walk me through it. Like each step, I have a kid say what I need to do. So showed them, they taught me, I taught them, they taught me, and then it was their turn. And I had one kid, he's just so dramatic about it. He didn't want to do it. He's all like, flopping over and stuff. I was like, okay, it's fine, So he sets it aside. So then my daughter comes up, she does it, boom, hits it perfect. And I'm like, good job, 10 ninja points. Man, that kid looked up like, what? I was like, yeah, she get ninja points for doing the technique. I was like, you get, ninja points for doing the technique right. He's like, oh, I want ninja points. And man, he hit like 20 scissor sweeps.
Yep, you just gotta find the right incentive, right?
Right, just gotta find the right incentives. Like you get ninja points after, after doing a technique, man. It worked. I've never seen something so simple like drive kids crazy.
Well, adults are just as bad. The things we go through for a little piece of tape, right?
Yeah, I know, right? We were just talking about that the other day with another guy. Where we a jiu-jitsu belt. I could easily go on Amazon and buy a black belt for like $10.
Absolutely.
But would I put that belt on if I didn't have my black belt? Not at all. That just shows you, like, no. I would never. Like, if like I had my I was talking to a guy I was training with a while ago, and I think I was still a blue belt. He was a purple belt, and I was looking at his belt, and he's like, "Oh, you want to try it on?" And I looked at it, I was like, "Nah." I'm like, "Nope, you're not about to get me in trouble. I am not putting this belt on." But yeah, we go through a lot to get this $10 belt and a 10-cent piece of tape.
Absolutely.
It holds so much value and so much weight to us.
Yep, there's nothing like it. That's for sure.
Definitely. And I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think that's the worst thing is once you get the bug, every now and then, something might come up to where maybe you got an injury or maybe just, like you say, you're traveling and you don't have a chance to get your fix. And then you're like, man, you can tell just how much you become addicted to it, how much it means to you whenever you're not able to get it.
Yeah. It's like you just start contemplating everything. Like, what is life? What is this? What is this everyday thing without jiu-jitsu? This is nasty. Ew.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Nah. As much as we talk about like, oh, I think I'm gonna take it easy this week, or I'm gonna take a couple weeks off. Nah, it never works out. Never works out.
The hardest thing to do, isn't it, is to voluntarily like step back and take some time off.
Yeah, it's so hard to. So hard to.
Well, it gets to be a little more of a challenge as you get older, because you have to be more strategic in how you approach it so you can keep training longer. And sometimes guys forget that, okay, I'm not the same young guy that started, or I'm not the same person that I was 20 years ago. So I got to approach it a little differently, look at it, but I still want to be able to train. So maybe you got to be a little pickier with your training partners. Maybe not every day, every time. You got to kind of plan it out a little more.
Yeah. I will openly admit, like if I'm in pain or as like, depending on who's at the class, I'm like, yeah, I'm not rolling with you today. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big mistake a lot of folks make sometimes is they don't learn. And we try to teach our students that, hey, you've got to be very picky about your training partner. And we always say that, we teach jujitsu for self-defense. And the first thing you got to do is defend yourself when it comes to picking your partners and planning your training so that you don't get injured. And if you're not protecting yourself by being smart and planning ahead, then it's a lot harder to really understand self-defense.
Right. I mean, and there's no offense to the guys at the gym. It's just, it's just today ain't that day. Like,
not everybody's a good fit every time. And so you have to recognize when that's the case.
Yeah, we have a guy. I love him to death. I love him like a brother, but I won't roll with him every class. Nope.
Yep, I understand.
Not happening. Not happening. So, your son, well, he's a black belt too, or?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So how was that? Like, as a father, seeing your son get his black belt?
Oh man, incredible. And because we've been working on it for so long, because he started when he was 4. He got his black belt last June.
Okay.
And so he was 22 at the time, hadn't quite turned 23 yet, but he's basically grown up and doesn't know what life's like without jiu-jitsu.
Lucky.
So we've always had that. It's always just been one of those things that we would work on, and it was the goal. But you don't always realize, okay, what's eventually actually going to happen, and then you get there. And the cool thing about it is he probably understands jiu-jitsu better than I do, because he's thought about it. He's for years and years and just kind of contemplated on it. So it's really exciting to see him move into that position, and then for me to kind of get out of his way. That's the hardest part, I think, as a parent, is to make sure you give him room to grow and to be the black belt instead of just trying to get him there. And so now that's the challenges for me, is to make sure that I don't interfere too much, let him teach the classes, let him do the stuff, and let him continue to grow and develop. And because we always talk about how your black belt is really just your learner's permit for jiu-jitsu. Once you get it, now you start to understand how much there is to jiu-jitsu and kind of where you can go with it. So I got to kind of let him drive the vehicle now.
So hard.
It can be sometimes.
Like there's been times where, like, when we still had kids class, my daughter would try to roll, and it's like where does that line, that blur line ends at, where it's like I'm an instructor, but I'm also her father.
Right.
So it's like she's out there and like, something goes wrong and something don't work and she's crying. I was like, okay, who am I now? Like, am I the tough teacher or I'm the, or the loving parent? I'm like, I don't know which one to be, but I'm like, you did good, but get back out there.
Well, that's probably one of the toughest roles, and really, as an instructor, you're kind of in that position anyway. All the students are kind of like family, and so you're stuck in a tough position to where you want to, have empathy and sympathy for them, but at the same time, you got to push and encourage them to get outside their comfort zone, to continue to grow, and it's always this, balancing act of, okay, where do I stand? Am I on the, the loving side, or am I on the encouraging, coaching, pushing side?
Yeah. And it's very hard to differentiate what that role is.
Right.
So
it's even trickier, now, because the real goal for me is, I know that the whole point and process of it all is for my son to surpass me in jiu-jitsu, and
of course
there now. So you have to get ready to accept that too. They're like, okay, his jiu-jitsu is better than mine. He's got it down. And so, let him continue to grow into that role and run with it.
Yeah, I can't wait until we can, get a kids class going for my daughter to get back into it,
Right.
just to see that spark again, because I know she misses it as much as I miss her doing it.
And one of our favorite things now is every now and then we get to go and teach seminars together, different places. And so that is really great, because then we get to do it together. We get to share it with folks outside of our academy who haven't seen him, grow up in the role and everything. And so, you get a whole new appreciation for all the work he's put in, all the talent he has, and all the, the time that we've invested to get him there. And so that's really cool to be able to do that and go teach seminars and share jiu-jitsu together with other folks at other academies.
That's dope.
That's
dope.
It's one of my favorite things, sure.
Yeah, that's a goal of mine. I'm putting that on my bucket list.
Well, it'll happen before you know it. I think I barely blinked and now we're here. So it's just one of those.
Yeah. For sure. It's like it still feels like yesterday I just started training. Like
right, same here.
I just walked in newly, got my gi off Amazon, didn't know how to tie a belt. Now I'm in charge of other people learning this sport. Crazy.
It's always a wild journey, that's for sure. I know my favorite part too is now not only do I get to help people learn jiu-jitsu, but I get to work with other school owners and help them, become instructors. My son and I, one of the best things we've gotten to do recently is back in September, we went to the UK, to London. And while we're there, we taught some corporate personal protection seminars. And then we did an instructor certification course for some of the guys that have a program in the UK. And so that was really fun to go, and the two of us together, teach and train instructors how to be better instructors. And, we had a blast with that, along with doing, seminar while we were there. So it was a really great time, really great experience. And that's one of my favorite things to do is to, I've been lucky enough that a lot of people have helped me with my academy and how to do it as a business. So I really enjoy being able to help them, especially guys that are just starting out. Because I remember when I started, you don't know what you don't know. And so many things, just like jiu-jitsu, there's so many little things that are very simple that if you change one little thing, make all the difference in being able to do it as a successful business. And I've been lucky enough over the last 19 years to be able to do it and have people, show me these things, help me, go out and learn more about doing it as a business, and being able to walk in every day, basically put on my pajamas, take off my shoes, and do that as a career, as opposed to back when I used to, be in the military and have to work a much different approach to earning a living, where now I get to do it all with my son.
Man, that's beautiful. that's the end goal for me. I would love to eventually have, you know, our school flourish and I can literally just wake up and do jujitsu.
You'll get there. You know, that's the
Yeah.
key is, you know, since you want it and it's as you've got it set as a goal, now it's just a matter of finding, you know, where all the pieces are to put it together. And then next thing you know, you'll have it.
Oh yeah, I'm banking on it, man. I'm very hopeful that, you know, we're gonna do big things. We're growing slowly. You know, we've been fortunate to kind of partner up with this school owner. He teaches kickboxing and stuff like that. Very wonderful guy. We kind of like, joined his school and he let us teach, you know, jujitsu at his place. And we,
Nice.
you know, we're slowly growing, you know, but eventually we're gonna be like, okay, it's time for us to kind of like fly from the nest and kind of build our own, build our own brick and mortar. But it'll happen. It'll happen for sure.
And that's kind of how we started. You know, I started with a program at a local, you know, a little place down the road called Bishop Park, which is like a little community center. They had a gymnastics program, and at the time, you know, I was working at the University of Georgia teaching military science, and I put my son in gymnastics. You know, he was like almost 4, and so we put him in gymnastics. You know, something to do to help develop his coordination and athleticism. And I went over there one day to watch his gymnastics class, and I was wearing a martial arts T-shirt. And the lady that ran the program came and approached me and said, "Hey, do you teach martial arts?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." And you know, she said, "Well, we have a program here, and we're losing our instructor. You know, would you be interested in starting a program?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure." So I started a kids program at this park. I had like 3 classes of, you know, had about 35, 40 kids all together in these 3 classes. And then at the same time, I was teaching a club at the University of Georgia that was adult jujitsu. And those 2 programs, when I finally opened up the brick and mortar first edition of our school in 2005, became our school. And out of that, that's how we kind of, you know, initially got started and got going with, you know, the people that came over with us and kept training, and we evolved from there. And then, you know, 19 years later, we just had our 19-year anniversary at the beginning of March. And
Oh,
so
congratulations.
thank you. And you never know, like, kind of how it'll grow and how it'll go. So you're there.
Yeah, man. That just made me more excited.
Good. That's what it takes. Excitement. That'll get you there.
Yeah. I love this sport. You know, I know I keep saying that, but I love it so much. I just want to give back as much as it gave me. That's all.
Yep, that's definitely key. And that's probably the best thing about it is, you know, it's not like other jobs. You get to help people all the time. And, you know, talking with somebody the other day, and we're talking about how, you know, you can't always help everyone. And that's disappointing, especially when you see some folks that, you know, man, that person could really benefit from jujitsu. It would help them
Yeah.
so much. And you just can't get them to take the step, you know, the key steps necessary to train. But you know, you have to kind of overlook that and go with the folks that come in and tell you what a difference it's made in their lives and how you've made a positive change for them, because that's really what gets you fired up about it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm like, you know, I reach out to people, reach out to friends and family, and you know, I preach the good word of jujitsu and how beneficial it is to me, and
Right.
everything is done. And if they show up, they show up. If they don't, then you know, well, it wasn't meant to be. Not gonna cry
Yeah.
about it.
Done all you can do in that case, right? All you can do
Right.
is invite them on the journey. They actually have to walk the path.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Well, all right, Randy. Well, you've been in the game for a long time, so I know you know got a chance to roll with everybody. I mean, a lot of big people, I assume. But if there isn't, or if there is people that you haven't got a chance to roll with, who are your top 3 people you would love to get a chance to roll with?
Oh man, you know, I would say, um, hmm, that's probably tough. You know, I think more than anything, you know, I've got to train a little bit with Hickson Gracie. I would love to roll with him and have him teach me more of his magic, because you
Mm-hmm.
know, just incredible practitioner, and you know, just a fantastic, you know, like pool of knowledge that you wish you could get more of. As far as that, I mean, for me, I really am just happy to still be doing it, to still being able to get out on the mat from time to time and keep training, keep doing it. My goal is to be kind of like Grandmaster Elio and be close to 100 and still walking out there in a gi and being able to kind of have people look and go, wow, I can't believe that old guy can still do this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. That's like our grandmaster, Francisco Mansour. He has one more seminar coming up in May, and then he's going to Brazil to retire.
Oh, nice.
So I'm excited to see him because I haven't seen him since. I think I was still a white belt when I first met Grandmaster Mansour. So it'll be very excited to see him now. And whatnot, and it's gonna be fun. A lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of knowledge coming up. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's really the key is you have all these guys that were pioneers and that have blazed the trail and kind of set the standard, and then unfortunately a lot of times these days nobody knows who they are. They're kind of getting forgotten with all the craze of especially on the sports side. All the games there and with the UFC and all those things. And a lot of people are really missing out because they don't know who these people are that blazed the trail and made things happen so that jiu-jitsu is where it is. And like I said, when I got to show Jorge Gracie around, the amazing thing about it was, that was well over 20 years ago, almost 30 years ago. And he kind of told me then his plan for jiu-jitsu about how popular it would be. And man, the guy was brilliant because he laid it all out just like it is now. And it's kind of incredible that he had that type of vision and foresight to see where it would go, what it would become, and kind of, even then to look back and see what an impact it's had on my life from all that. But it's all because guys like him had a vision with what jiu-jitsu could do for the world.
Yeah. Gotta show thanks to the forefathers and the people that decide to bring jiu-jitsu over here, man. You can't do nothing but thank them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, all right, Randy. Unless you got any other questions for me, I would love for you to shout out your school, let the people know where they can find you. Whatever else you guys got going on, the floor is all yours.
Okay. Well, great. Well, like I said, we're here, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Athens in Athens, Georgia. Anytime you're in the area, look us up at athensjujitsu.com. Come see us. If you're a school owner and you need some help with your school, check us out at martialartssuccessinstitute.com. Like I said, we help folks kind of develop their programs, build their curriculums, anything you need in that area. That's kind of, what we do to kind of help other folks enjoy the same level of success and just amazing life enhancement that we've gotten from jiu-jitsu. So if we can help you out, love to do it. Happy to help wherever I can.
Hey man, I'll be in touch with you. So any help is good help. So
hey, be glad to, like I said, the best thing I get to do is help guys that a lot of times when you're starting out, there's a lot of people out there that will coach you and help you and everything, but a lot of times they want phenomenal prices for to do that for you. And personally, like what I've seen is, if I can help somebody who's just starting out, get to a whole nother level, then that's success for me. I don't have to make a lot of money off of it in order for it to be worthwhile, because like I said, people have done it for me. And so I get a lot of enjoyment out of helping guys, build their programs, change, and go out there and change other people's lives with jiu-jitsu.
I love that. Well, maybe we can, if we can get your son on here, and I would love to talk to him as well one day. But
absolutely, yeah, I'm sure he'd be willing to do it and dish some dirt on me and everything.
Right. But yeah, man, Randy, I wish you the best, man. Congratulations on your 19 years, and here's to 50 million more.
Thank you very much. And hey, congratulations to you on having the courage to start your own program to go after that dream. And I look forward to hearing more about it, talking to you more about it, and seeing it develop and blossom for you.
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch for sure.
Excellent.
All right, that's the end of today's episode. I would love to thank Randy one more time for coming on the show and blessing us with his jiu-jitsu knowledge. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page to stay up to date on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits Podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day. And we're done, sir.